Hi, and welcome to Business Link. I'm Jason Ball, President and CEO of the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce. We are here in the AOI podcast studio. This is our podcast about business issues and resources available in Lincoln, Nebraska. And as we have talked about on this podcast previously, this past year in 2022, we've been in the process of developing a strategic plan. And I think, as every business leader in the community will know, workforce is one of our primary challenges and issues here in Lincoln in terms of how we can grow this economy and grow this community. Throughout that process, one of the issues related to workforce that came up a lot was early childhood enrichment and early childhood education resources. It's a really important issue for our workforce, and so today I am thrilled to welcome Ann Brandt, our Executive Director of Lincoln Littles, to the podcast. Ann, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me today.
Thanks so much for being here. And if you want to just give a little bit about your background and then also tell us about what is Lincoln Littles as a program, what do you do, and how are you organized?
Sure. So I am Ann Brandt. I have lived here my entire life in Lincoln, Nebraska, and most of my career has been in Lincoln Public Schools. And so education has always been something that I've cared deeply about. And so between my education background and then also just being from Lincoln, Nebraska, when this opportunity came up to be executive director of Lincoln Littles, I jumped on it because through the different types of work that I did at Lincoln Public Schools, I was able to see the disparities that came about from almost always based on children's experiences from 0 to 5. It really sets children up for either success or lack of success based on what they experience from 0 to 5. And so I just thought this was a great opportunity for me to be able to build on the work that I've already done and make a change in my employment to help affect change in Lincoln for all children.
Yeah. And how is Lincoln Littles organized? There's a partnership with the Community Foundation, I believe.
So Lincoln Littles was established in 2020. So we've been around for 3 years exactly. I think I started on January 7th of 2020. And we are an independent organization, but we're fiscally sponsored by Lincoln Community Foundation. And our goal is for all children to have access to high quality care and education. And as I mentioned before, that's an important piece for kindergarten readiness as well as just lifelong success. And so we're working on issues of affordability, quality. We have enough. We used to, before the pandemic, we had enough childcare in Lincoln, but not enough high quality childcare. That has actually changed. We now don't even have enough childcare due to workforce issues. And we're doing that through business engagement, community engagement, and ultimately policy change.
Yeah, wonderful. And since you mentioned policy change, I know there's another statewide organization called First 5 Nebraska that is related to this space. Can you tell us a little bit about First 5 Nebraska and how they plug into the work that Lincoln Littles does?
Right. So First 5 Nebraska is a statewide organization focused on policy change that fits the needs of children, families, child care providers. So they work on early childhood policy, which at the policy level is where we really need to see the big changes in order for sustainable change. And so they are statewide. Lincoln Littles is local to Lincoln, obviously, specifically, but they're great partners of ours and serve on our board of advisors, on our champions team, in many different respects. And we partner with them through work that we do directly with child care providers. They are there listening, hearing what's happening on the ground so they can take that information back to the legislature, which just began to be able to really make sure that the changes in policy directly affect in a positive way children, families, and the child care providers.
Yeah. And a lot of what this space for the business community is just a little bit new to in terms of engaging in it. This is something that the Chamber wants to become more involved in because our business leadership wants us much more involved in. Can you help explain? You hit on the impacts that early childhood education and enrichment has on further down the road outcomes as they go through their education and careers. But can you just expand a little bit more on what those impacts are, how these types of programs can help our workforce issues that we have right now, and what this means for families in Lincoln long term?
Yeah. So the larger workforce we know is having issues retaining, recruiting, and we know that is directly related in some respects to people having trouble finding quality care for their children. And basically, we have 77% of children under 5 in Lincoln have all parents in the workforce. Yeah. So most people are working, and people need to feel like they have an affordable option that is high quality, that they feel comfortable about, so that they can go to work. So child care goes hand in hand with workforce. And we just know from the pandemic in the last 3 years, the amount of women who have left the workforce has been large. Often those duties fall in the hands of women. And so child care workforce is the workforce behind the workforce. And we're reaching kind of crisis mode right now as far as child care workforce in Lincoln and across the country. In May, we did a survey with child care workforce here in Lincoln to find out. We knew that they were leaving the workforce, so we had an idea of why they were doing so, but we wanted to find out directly from them why that was happening. And so we found out that low wages, lack of benefits, and then burnout were why they were leaving. Plus, there were a lot more job openings, and so they had, even though they may have loved what they were doing, they just really felt like they had to leave the workforce to be able to care for their own families. Yeah. And I did just want to mention, too, that it's not that child care directors and owners don't want to pay their staff and don't want to provide benefits. It's that the business model doesn't allow for that because we don't have public funding for child care. Generally speaking, we don't have public funding for all child care in the way that we have public funding for Lincoln, like for public schools.
I think that's one of the most interesting things about these issues is it's a business model that's fundamentally not scalable because you don't want to have one person responsible for 30 kids
not only do you not want to, but you can't.
Yeah.
Because of the regulations.
And so I think that's part of the innovation that the state is needing to work with, and certainly the Lincoln business community is needing to work with in terms of how can we make sustainable models for early childhood education and daycare so that we can have greater participation in the workforce. Like
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think just in relation to workforce, of course, there's those immediate needs of, do we even have enough childcare slots for the amount of people that are working so that they can go to work and feel okay about being at work and where their children are? And of course, as I mentioned before, the extent to which we have quality care and education is the extent to which our children are well cared for, well educated. Yeah. And of course, down the line, they will be our workforce. And so it's really an everybody issue. So I just always think that if people think that, oh, I don't have kids in childcare, or, oh, I'm not having issues within our business as far as getting people to work, we still all need to care about this issue because it has a ripple effect in our community. There's
no doubt it has immediate and long-term impacts, and it has direct and indirect impacts to everybody in this community.
Right.
And I know that we are looking ahead to greater details being available, but we want to flag for the business community there are some more resources that are going to be becoming available very soon. Can you tell us what we know now, and then we'll talk about where we can go to get future information in a little bit.
Right. So, well, there's two things I want to talk about. One is that there is a business child care partnership grant funding that will become available at the mid to end of this month. We have webinars coming out next week, and businesses who are interested in partnering with childcare or maybe having a childcare can apply for these funds. It's for expansion of capacity, and so we'll know more about that next week when we see the webinar come out. And we've at lincolnlittles.org under the business tab, we will have information there.
And then we will also share that on our social media channels for the chamber.
Right. And then secondly, I just wanted to mention, we talked about First Five and our partnership. We do have a business partnership consulting service available for businesses that we hope to be able to work with more and more businesses. We're currently working with several here in Lincoln, but the whole goal here is to help businesses. If you're a business and you're worried about retention and recruitment, which I think everybody is, We want to help you figure out solutions for your team and for your business to be able to look at what are barriers for, if you have employees who are parents, what are the barriers for them, and how can we help you incorporate family-friendly solutions, tuition assistance programs. There's lots of different possibilities at your business, and we have survey capability with staff, and then we'll help you develop and implement those solutions.
So I want to stress, if you or your business feel like this is an issue that's hurting your existing workforce or making it a greater challenge for you to recruit new workforce here because they have family considerations like these, there are resources available. I just want to encourage everybody to look up First 5 Nebraska and Lincoln Littles,
right.
And then watch the Chamber's social media channels. We will be putting more information out there.
Right. And on our website, I just want to say, too, that we do have our one-pager about our business partnership with First 5 Nebraska. So, again, you can go to www.lincolnlittles.org and hit the business tab, and you'll find that information.
Awesome. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Everyone, that wraps up this episode of Business Link here at the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce AOI podcast studio. We will see you again soon.